It's dark in here. What's up? What's up, everybody? It's not dark when it's
actually live.
Yeah. Hey guys, welcome back to Superhero Chat. Here's the new get up,
the new setup,
and we're back this week. Last week we talked about why people love Marvel comics. This week we're going to talk about why people love DC comics.
And surprise, surprise, we have more reasons.
Yeah, and the DC apparel is just
apropos.
It just happened. So
I mean, this happened because I forgot it last week. So.
But before we get into our topic, news and notables.
So first of all, you'll notice that I am not as tall as I normally am. That's because the chair I'm sitting in sits lower. Somebody wanted me to be reminded of my place on this team.
Right.
No, but I'm kidding.
I can tilt the camera down.
Oh no, I much prefer.
You much prefer to barely be in the
That's
thing.
Right. No, I'm in there. I take up a lot of space.
You take okay.
I like this chair. It's
and
quite comfortable.
Is that news or notable?
A little of both. So here's news for you folks who, for some reason, have not tuned in before now. We're back together. It's like Forest. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. Brandon wasn't open today, so we didn't get a chance to go by the comic book store. I guess that's notable because it's not really news. Yeah, he's not really known for being open on
Mondays.
Yeah, I'd love to crash one of his. So here's news for you folks who are interested. If you go on Facebook, find Play for Life Comics, they do online auctions. And he's had some serious books up there as of late. First appearance of Deadpool, first Wolverine. What's some other good books he's had lately? Some old school Spider-Man stuff, old school Fantastic Four. He's really making me want to go in and look at his old Fantastic Four stuff. Bucks and under. He had first Ronin up there the other day. It wasn't in good shape, but he was only asking like $35 for it. So you guys should check that out. I would love to crash one of their live online auctions just to sit in on it and kind of give my 2 cents, so to speak, on why certain issues are worth. Because I enjoy watching them and contributing through the comments, but it'd be cooler to actually have them invite us to partake in that. So, but anyway, so Playful Life Comics on Facebook. They do auctions Saturday and Sunday mornings and then randomly. So, but you can get some good deals on there. He's been marking some books like $10 less than what you'd find in store. So he's willing to deal and good stuff. As far as reading goes, what have I read this week? A couple of Superman, like classic Superman issues where I read the one from the 80s where Batman and Superman sort of exchange identities. And by that, I mean Batman figures out who Superman is and Superman tells Batman he knows who he is.
I felt like, as much as the movie wasn't great, the Batman vs. Superman movie did that well. Them figuring out who each other is, I thought that was really cool. Everything else about the movie was pretty
terrible,
except for Wonder Woman. But
there's got to be a bright spot in even the worst movie, right?
Yeah.
And if it's got to be anything, let it be Wonder Woman, right?
There you go. I guess for me, news has been. I got this set up. Yeah.
It looks good. I wish my office looked half this good.
So my hope is to switch out these two comic books from time to time so y'all can see different stuff. This is the first appearance of Naomi Sunrider. I think that's her name. She's a Jedi. She becomes one of the greatest Jedi to ever live.
My arm's not long enough, and that's the reprint of the first appearance of the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, so came out about a year ago.
Yeah.
So that was fun. But also beat Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I know I'm like a year behind everybody, but
and it only took him to getting a new Switch to do it, right?
Yeah. Pretty awesome. It's a pretty cool game. was about oh yeah, well my Switch died, so I had to go get a new one. That's what he's talking about. I know I'm like a year behind everybody else, but it's an awesome game. Breath of the Wild is, so we'll probably be doing some videos on that too, or I will.
You will.
He will. But
I don't know anything about that sort of thing. My closest brush with Zelda was in my senior year. One of the guys I hung out with, he got the newest Zelda game, which I think was Ocarina of Time.
Yeah,
I think.
Old 64.
Yeah, and I went over to his house and we hung out and watched him play that for like 3 hours, and then I was like, all right, I gotta go home. And I mean, that's pretty much my extent of Zelda games. I mean, I think the character Link is interesting. I think the mythology behind it all is kind of cool, and but I don't play video games enough.
Yeah.
So
I think that's about it.
Oh, Marvel and Spider-Man.
Oh yeah,
they reconciled.
I figured that was going to happen.
So Marvel's going to get like 25% instead of their 5%. I think is what I read, and so they're back on for Spider-Man 3. So
that's good.
That's big news.
I know everybody was freaking out, and I was like, you know what? It's just business. They're gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
I wasn't too worried about it.
New Fantastic Four comes out this week. Marvel seems to be back on schedule with that, so Brandon's got like 3 or 4 issues for me because I can't figure out when Marvel's going to put a book out. God forbid they have it announced on their website so that you can show up at your comic book store when it comes out. But I mean, it's the only new book, monthly book anyway.
That's something that I've complained about is it's hard to know what's coming out when.
Yeah.
There's not really a good advertising way.
Well, they're inconsistent. 1 month they'll be on time. The next month it's like
there's
2 months late.
There's that too.
And then there's Doomsday Clock, which is a 2-3 year project that was supposed to have been done in 1 year. So I don't know what's going on.
I would like like when you go to the airport and you see like the classic big sign that has all the stuff. Like they could have a website and all it was is like all the titles that are ongoing or short series, and just be like, this is the next, and it could just show you like this is what's coming out this week, like next week, and then like if it's delayed, you just flip it over and it says delayed on there. It's like boom, that's all you need, just a little sign on one website somewhere that says here's what's coming out this week.
So you guys make an app for that.
I know that there's a website that I look at from time to time that says what is coming out on DC, but it's hard to see. Like it doesn't load well. But I mean it's something.
Something's better than nothing.
Better than nothing. But I feel like with all the superhero movies, they should be advertising comics. Hey, comic books are still a thing. Like people.
That should. I mean, yeah, absolutely. You know how at the beginning when they flip through the pages to set up, the DC comics or Marvel comics. Yeah, advertise your comics.
Yeah, that's what they should do.
Check out your local comic book store.
I mean, there's still a bunch of them out there. Needing business. So you check out your local comic book store. Go support them. And if you happen to be in Wake Forest, go to Play for Life Comics.
Where you can play for life.
That's right.
See Brandon and tell him we sent you.
That's right, because he's pretty awesome.
He might give us free stuff.
I doubt it.
He might give you free stuff. I don't know.
Who knows? I doubt it. But
I don't know. He's been sitting on those Year of the Villain 25-cent issues. So he might be willing to give you one of those for free.
Yeah. And he's got some pretty cheap stuff.
And he has some really good stuff.
We finally convinced him to get a $1 bin.
And he's got great stuff in there. I need to get up there because I remember some stuff I meant to get at the convention.
I remember earlier this year I went when I stopped by, or no, it was last year. I got a bunch of Robin single issues out of there, so I was pretty excited about that.
So, sweetie, if you're watching this, I doubt you would be watching this. Ignore what I just said about having to go by the comic book store.
Oh man! So, all right, into the topic: why people love DC Comics. So, if they
don't. Good night. No, just kidding. No. The movies ruined everybody.
That was last week. Marvel. That's right.
That's right. I was just kidding because of the movies.
Everybody loves DC.
Yeah, that's true.
It's the best. Anyway,
pick a character. This guy. They both made great movies recently.
Yeah. It's hard to see some of them because of the.
This is Aquaman. That's Captain Marvel, aka Shazam. And I only say that because if you go to look for the movie, I don't want you to get confused.
Yeah.
You guys know.
Get to the right Captain Marvel. Anywho,
the real Captain.
So as you know, we're big DC fans, but we try to be fair with Marvel last week.
Yeah, he's wearing a DC shirt. I got a DC hat.
Because we do love Marvel as well, but you know DC is better. Anyways,
preeminent. Right? We'll call it preeminent.
If you haven't seen that video last week, go back and check it out. We talk about how, and I'll kind of set it up. We talked about how in DC and Marvel they're kind of similar to the philosophical views from Aristotle and Plato, whereas Plato imagined that there are these forms of everything, and that there's these metaphysical forms just out there, and that everything, like a cup, is it's truly a cup when it what's the word?
Points back to
the form. And so the form is out there. It's in this metaphysical state of being out there. And then the things on Earth, the things that we see are close or far away from it. We determine that by how close they match the original form. So the idea of beauty, there's this idea of beauty out there. And we see things, and when things match the idea of the form of beauty, then we perceive them as beautiful. Whereas when they don't match the greater form, that we don't see them as beautiful. Whereas Aristotle thinks that things are in the thing itself contains the form itself, and so it's more of a physical idea rather than like these just forms that are just out there somewhere, that the form itself is contained inside of the thing. And so
we understand what beauty is based on this is beautiful, that's beautiful, that's beautiful, and then we sort of bring those ideas, like what's beautiful about that, and what's beautiful about that, and what's beautiful about that, and we sort of synthesize what beauty is based on why we describe certain things as beautiful. So like a sunset, most people would agree that that's beautiful. So there's something about that speaks to us and we would call beautiful. And so, you know, we can draw what beauty is based on, you know, these different things that we collectively agree are beautiful, if that makes sense.
Anyway, so we argued last week that with Marvel, they're more of the Aristotelian view, where the
$5 word for free,
and DC is more of the Platonic view, where the characters themselves in DC represent the forms, these ideals that we try to live up to, whereas Marvel's characters are more where they contain the forms. But the outside is actually imperfect. So there's an aspect of the perfection inside of the characters, and we see how they become the heroes.
So Spider-Man is a hero in spite of any failures that he has as a hero.
Right. And so, and that's kind of the ground basis of where we thought. Sorry about all the philosophy, but we thought that it'd be fun to talk about. But anyway, so I think that one of the main reasons that people enjoy DC Comics is because those characters represent the ideals. They are the ideals, like, and so Superman, when he was created, he's supposed to be like the perfect man. A Superman. Right. And so Batman, he's like supposed to be this perfect detective, this perfect man. When as Superman became more and more elevated above mankind, Batman became more and more the perfect man.
Right. And
then you have Wonder Woman, the perfect woman. And then you have the Flash, who has perfect speed. And so a lot of their powers are represented.
Green Lantern, perfect will, right?
Right.
Control over himself.
Aquaman, perfect control over fish.
I would argue perfect control over 75% of the world.
I couldn't.
Right? 75% of the world.
He's an Aquaman fan, if you're new. Not that I don't like Aquaman. I just
somebody wants to get pushed out of his chair.
I gotta lay into him sometimes. anyways, but yeah. So DC, you see, their main characters really portray like this ideal of perfection. You think like all their power, like they may only have one or two powers, but they're maxed out
right
completely.
Flash, fastest man alive.
And so, which is why we argue that Superman should never be faster than the Flash.
Because then the Flash is useless.
This is the Flash.
Oh, I'm pointing at Captain Marvel because his title is Mightiest Mortal Alive or something like that.
And so, and I think there's something that's within us as humans that strives for perfection. Like there's a sense in which we want to live up to that bar of perfection.
Right.
I think we like Marvel because we can identify with the imperfection.
Right.
But I still think that there's also this part of in us that is really wishes that we could achieve. Man's been such a popular character. He's so idealistic. He's perfect. He is the perfect person, or he's supposed to be. And so there's this drawing that we have to him, so that we could be more like him. And that makes him a great superhero, a great character, because it makes people want to be more like him. And then Batman does the same. Wonder Woman, same thing.
And Batman, you see like where he disciples, these younger people, right, who have similar backgrounds in a lot of ways to him, being orphaned, and he brings them along and shows them the way to be like him and yet different. Like Batman doesn't want Dick Grayson or Tim Drake or any of those guys to turn out just like him. He wants them to be better than him, right? He wants them to come after him and not make the same mistakes, which is a good, like, humanly speaking, that's a good thing for us to do. Like when I raise my kids, I don't want them to make the same mistakes I did. I want them to learn from my mistakes and be better than that. And even though Batman he's got a contingency plan for everything. And I love Grant Morrison's Justice League run from the late 90s. But let's be honest when I say that Bat God, as people like to call him, because he's always able to get at, that existed in various forms 15, 20 years before Grant Morrison was writing that. You have Batman doing Bat God type stuff when he's fighting Despero in the late issues of the Justice League before, right before, is it before Crisis? Maybe before Crisis on Infinite Earths. I can't remember. But Batman's like fighting, like getting in Despero's face, and Despero is like, I don't know who's it. Like he's not quite Darkseid, but he's up there, right? Level. I mean, he could single-handedly take on the Justice League and not bat his third eye. I'm cheesy. I'm a dad. I get to be. But you understand what I'm saying? When so Batman, his being this prototypical human in this world with these more or less gods, right? Superman, Wonder Woman, godlike characters. Batman is everything. Like it's as close as we can get to that, humanly speaking, right? Because we could train ourselves to be experts at martial arts. We see this all the time. Like we know Bill, right? We go to church with a guy named Bill. I think he says he's a 3rd degree black belt in karate. He's a 6th degree black belt in taekwondo, and he's currently training in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and he's got like a blue belt with a stripe or something. I don't know what that means. He just started last year with the Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but he just went to a tournament and placed 3rd. So, I mean, you could potentially be Batman if you had enough time and resources and all that. And so, like, looking at that, we're like, man, that's something we can attain to, or at the very least seek to attain to, right? And so that's something that I think we desire to do. Like, we have this want to be the smartest, or be the strongest, or be the fastest, or be the best at whatever. Like, I think internally that's just something we're created with. Like,
well, I think that's why the character you keep pointing to, Shazam or Captain Marvel.
Yeah,
I think that's why he's such a lovable character, and it's why I like him, because it really portrays this childhood desire of being Superman. So he's created after Superman. He's basically a copy of Superman, except for that he's got different powers and he's a different kid. But like the human form, or the adult form, Captain Marvel has a lot of the same things that Superman does, though they're different. But the basis of the character, I think, was a childhood desire to become an adult, or to be Superman. Childhood desire to be Superman. And so they're like, okay, what if we had a kid who turns into basically Superman?
right.
And I think that his character, the reason I love it so much, is it really captures that the desire that's within us, especially as kids, before we grow up and realize we can't be that. That we
can't physically fly. I'm trying to convince my 7-year-old of that now. When he runs across the living room and takes off and jumps on the couch, I'm like, Dad, I was flying. I was like, not quite, buddy, not quite.
But it really captures that idea of how we're striving and yearning to be
more than we are,
the perfect man, the idealistic, and I say man in the general sense, because I think
humanly speaking, right, we're not being sexist.
I think Wonder Woman has the same thing, where she's supposed to be the perfect woman. And
she is the most beautiful, according to in the DC universe.
And so, that they have a character that women can strive to be, and I think it's interesting that each of the main Trinity, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, have different kind of ideals that they represent. So, like, you have Superman, hope, and that's a whole nother discussion. Hope. And then I think that Wonder Woman, love
and compassion.
What was Batman again?
I like to say ingenuity.
There you go. Willpower. I know that Green Lantern's that.
Right. But you're talking the Trinity.
We're talking the Trinity. So. But anyways, and so I think that's pretty interesting. But do you have any more to say on some of that?
Well, I mean, the way I had described it when we were talking before is they're very paradigmatic. They are the standard as far as heroes. Like, I guarantee when people are creating new characters, or when they're comparing characters, they hold them up to the standard of Superman, or they hold them up to the standard of Batman or Wonder Woman. I know to a lesser extent they do it to Spider-Man as well, but like, these are your starting points.
Yeah.
Right. These are on a compass. You're looking toward north, right? And then you gauge everything else from that position. These are your North Stars, right? These DC characters are the North Stars of superheroes. Now, I know that everybody doesn't like that comparison, because you're like, well, not everybody's Superman. Yeah, we get that. But
it would be sad if everybody were Superman.
It would be boring too. Because at some point somebody would do something creative and we'd be like, so we don't need Superman anymore? No, we do need Superman. There's a reason that we need Superman, and we need Batman, and we need Wonder Woman. But we don't need, 6 billion copies per se.
Yeah.
And then, but the beautiful thing, like, if you want to segue from there, the beautiful thing about DC is there's room for Superman or I can't point Flash, right? But then you could also have Jay Garrick and Barry Allen and Wally West and Wallace West and whoever else, Impulse. I'm sorry, how did I forget Bart Allen? You can have all these characters within the same universe and not feel like it's weird, right?
Yeah.
You don't feel like you have to kill them off. Well, I don't. I feel like I could read about all those characters and I don't feel like they have to die. So that's one of the things I like about DC is there's like a genuine concern, or at least there was. I felt like Rebirth sort of got back at that, and then we got Heroes in Crisis. So I don't know what DC is doing, but
if they ever finish Doomsday, maybe we'll know.
Right. If they do Doomsday Clock and finish it, we'll figure out what Jeff Johns was trying to do. But Legacy was such a crucial part of DC Comics.
Yeah. So the second thing we love about DC is Legacy.
Yeah. These are the big headings if you folks really want to know.
First, they were the first. Superman, obviously.
First and best.
First superhero.
Right.
1938. And, it's significant. And then Batman, 39. And,
Robin in 40.
Yeah. And so, they've been around for a long time, and so that they have that legacy of being the first.
We got legitimate 1,000th issues last year, right? And they weren't manufactured quite like Marvel's 1,000th issue was.
Do they have 1,000th?
They just put one out last month because they were trying to get on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. But more than just like being the first, like Lewis was saying, they've really emphasized over the years passing the torch to new characters. Now, I think that in the last couple of decades, they've struggled with that.
Damian's about the only true legacy character at the moment. Oh, John. I forgot John Kent. Superboy. But unfortunately, they've been given the title at the expense of other characters.
Well, I think a lot of it goes back to Flash Rebirth.
Yes.
Not the Rebirth DC continuity, but the story, the story of Flash Rebirth. I'm telling them. You should know what I'm talking about. Where they bring back Barry Allen.
Yeah.
So you had, what was it, the 60s, where you had the Barry Allen.
No, Barry was created in the 50s.
50s, okay.
Mid-50s.
So you had the passing of the torch from Alan Scott to Hal Jordan. You had the passing of the torch from Jay Garrick to Barry Allen. And, at first, it's kind of weird to see new characters carrying the same emblem. It was the first time that had really ever happened. And, but it was just done so well. They did it in a way that wasn't that they were getting rid of the old characters, because eventually they brought them back.
Right.
I think, what was it, the Flash of Two Worlds that did that? And it showed, hey,
Flash 123.
These old characters, they're still around. But we're going to tell new stories with new characters. And they continued that when Barry Allen died and passed on the mantle of the Flash to Wally West, his kid Flash. And
Wally had like a 20-25 year run.
Yeah. Hal Jordan passed his on to John Stewart and Guy Gardner and Kyle Rayner, and now we have Jessica Cruz and Simon Baez, and it's just like they've been passing the torch on and on. But I think it really, obviously, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman, they couldn't do that too because they were just such iconic characters. But they're secondary characters. They could pass on that torch because they weren't the main characters, but which is another thing that points to what we were talking about, how they're the ideal.
Right.
You can't really change the ideal. But they have tried a few times, and to their credit, like they passed the bat man to Dick Grayson, which was awesome.
Yeah.
And then they had to backtrack and give it back to Bruce for some reason. And I think the best they've done with that is Jumps to the Future with
Terry. Yeah.
They've given Terry and Batman Beyond. They've given it to Tim Drake in future stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And so they've done stuff to hint that the future of these characters will be passing on the legacy. But I don't think that we've ever seen this kind of passing the torch to the next generation as far as like the titles goes in Marvel. They've tried it with Captain America a few times, but it doesn't really stick because he's the ideal of Marvel.
Right.
He's the Superman. He's the one that kind of centers the whole Marvel universe around
Captain America is their North Star.
I like to call it he's the moral compass.
Right.
And so it's hard to change that because everybody's kind of looks to Captain America every time there's a civil war to see what's he saying because I'm gonna be on his side. And so usually when there's something going on and you're not sure, you look to your standard to find out what it is that you're supposed to do. How are you supposed to understand this? And so that's why you can't have the standards changing
right
as much. But all the other characters, and that's one of the great things about DC, they have so many other characters that they develop, that they spend time developing. Marvel has a lot of extra characters.
They just don't do a whole lot
with them.
And that this is another thing that we love about DC is that they have these lesser characters that may not be able to carry on their own series for any extended amount of time, but DC's generally speaking willing to do something with them. They're willing to give us a Firestorm storyline or a Blue Beetle and Booster Gold storyline. Instead of just saying, well, yeah, they exist and you can see them in the background of the next Infinity Gauntlet story, or we're going to kill them and spark, the next big storyline, like in Civil War with the New Warriors. I'm still mad about that, Marvel. I'm a New Warriors guy. I read them. I collected. That was one of the first series that I said I've got to own all, the whole run of, and I was able to get it, and I was able to find for stupid cheap their first appearances and everything. And so near and dear to my heart. I'm really on this original art kick as of late, so I'm trying to think like how would I want all those characters pictured or whatever. But
I think that and one of the things that did it, I think, for our generation was the Justice League Unlimited show.
Yeah,
really just showed all the characters that DC had, and they gave a bunch of them the spotlight, even random characters that nobody has really heard of outside of like comic book readers.
Elongated Man. I mean, you guys might know him from the Flash show, but until Elongated Man was on the Justice League cartoon, I don't know that he was on a cartoon show. I don't think he was in anything other than the actual comic books.
I mean,
correct me if I'm wrong.
I fell in love with Booster Gold after the couple episodes he's in Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah.
And they had a whole bunch of people on there that are like C-list characters that are great. But they gave them time on the screen for people to find them. And a lot of the characters have given their own series. And so,
who would have thought the Ray would ever get his own TV show? Now, I mean, they fundamentally changed some aspects of the character, for better or worse. That's for you to decide. I'm not watching the show, but he has his own show, and as a fan of the Ray, I'm like, okay, fine, I'll take it, because higher profile stuff like Vixen. What a great character! I love her on the cartoon show. I love her in the old Justice League comics that I have. I don't know, about 2 years ago, I read through the entire Flash series after Wally became Flash. I reread all those, and I had forgotten about this team up Flash had with Vixen about 4 years in. And when she showed up, I'm like, let's go. Like, I want to see how this turns out. I'm like, I don't even know why I'm suddenly excited that Vixen has showed up, right? But sometimes we take for granted these lesser characters. And then we have to be reminded why they're cool. And DC does a great job with that.
Yeah. One of the things with the DCEU, if they could ever get their movie universe correct, is that they have enough well-developed characters that they're not going to run into the problem that Marvel's having with the MCU.
That's right.
Where your main four are kind of being retired with Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, and Hulk. They're kind of being retired and put on the back burner, even though Thor's still going to be around or whatever. And Hulk, I guess, is going to be around or whatever.
I guess we'll find out.
But, who do you replace them with? Who knows?
I don't know how our segues are working out so well, but that brings us to another thing that we absolutely love about DC is they have utility characters.
Right.
Okay.
So that's what I was getting to is that DC could lose some of its characters, and they have so many characters that are well developed that even though you might not have heard of them, they're well developed to be really fleshed out well and would fit on a TV. Maybe not by themselves right away, but on a team would work really well. So
you lose Superman. Who are we going to replace him with?
Which is why they were able to just throw Cyborg into the Justice League. As much as I didn't like that Cyborg was on the Justice League because he's a Teen Titan character, and
we deserve a Teen Titan movie.
And it's a little bit too young to be in the Justice League right now. But he's a well-developed character and a well-loved character that he could fit in the Justice League. And so, they can put him in there. They can take Superman if they kill off Superman, which they should have kept him dead if they were going to kill him off.
Yeah, because the way they brought him back was weak.
They have enough characters to replace Superman. They've got Steel. They've got Supergirl. They've
Martian
got Manhunter. They've got Captain Marvel.
Is Supergirl on this picture?
Yeah,
I can't
right
tell.
here.
Over here somewhere. Yeah. So Supergirl. That's an automatic win.
Right.
Because now you get Superman's powers,
right,
and him being dead, so you literally can have your cake and eat it too.
And I think it really plays well for the character because one of my favorite things about Supergirl is why I've always liked her better than Superman. Is I like the aspect where she has to live up to Superman. She came to the Earth to save him. And then found out that he was older because of some timey-wimey stuff. But then
suspended animation.
But then now she has to live in a world with a Superman and still be her own hero. And I think that's really excellent. So it's perfect. But you could take Batman out, and then you could put Green Arrow. You could put what's her name? Man, I can't.
What's her powers?
Bow and arrow.
Girl?
Yeah. Huntress.
Oh.
You could put Huntress in there.
That's a crossbow. She uses a crossbow. Get it right.
Whatever.
Get it right.
You could put Black Canary in there.
There you go.
There's so many characters that they could put. If they want to go with Justice Society lane, they could put Wildcat in there. There's a lot of cool characters that they have that would just fit right in the mold there. You could take Wonder Woman out. You could put
Power Girl,
Stargirl, Supergirl, Hawkgirl. A lot of cool characters that would fit there. You can take Hal Jordan out. You can put any of the Green Lanterns we've already mentioned in there.
Yeah.
Which is what they're probably going to do with Jon Stewart, which is awesome.
I really hope they do that.
By the way, Justice League cartoon, excellent. They put Hawkgirl and Jon Stewart in there. Beautiful. It's just beautiful. But even without them, they have their sidekicks. You've got Batman. He's got all the Robins, so you could always put the Robins in there. Wonder Woman.
Or Nightwing. You can put Nightwing because he's not a Robin anymore.
He was a Robin. So when I said Robins,
I know
there was never two at once.
I have to tease you.
You could take Wonder Woman out, and you could put Wonder Girl. Any of the Wonder Girls in there. You can take Superman out, and you put Superboy. And it makes a Teen Titans.
Which, if you wanted to segue.
But one of the great things about that is that there's so many really good characters that DC could potentially go on for a long time before they would have to reboot. Now, obviously, people would still want like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, maybe. So that's understandable. They're the ideals.
But the thing is, we could do that and still have a serious Justice League without those characters.
Yeah.
Like a quality Justice League without Superman, without Wonder
Right.
Woman, without Batman.
It's proven with how many Justice League Internationals and United and all the Justice Leagues that we've had without them. Led by Martian Manhunter, another one that could be put on there. And so many of these extended characters, of course, we're partial to some of them. Like I love Booster Gold. He loves Blue Beetle, and we have our other favorites. But there's so many great C-list characters where I feel like a lot of the C-listers in Marvel they don't hold up as well. They're not all bad. Don't get me wrong, but
no, they're great. I love so many of them.
I just don't think that they're as fleshed out as DC's is, because you'll see these characters in DC show up all the time.
And I'm going to use this as a segue because they live in a unified world. I spoke about that. I do like the fact that Marvel has their street level heroes and their cosmic level heroes, and they very rarely ever mix. But when they do, it's kind of cool. But in DC, it's one universe. So you got people running into Aquaman. You would be like, I don't know why they're running into each other, but let's read about it. I remember Peter David. He wrote what I argue is one of the best and possibly the most definitive Aquamans ever. He said, think about this. Aquaman can be dropped in the middle of Gotham City and survive just fine. But if you take Batman and drop him in the middle of the ocean by himself with if you take Aquaman with no planning and drop in the middle of Gotham, he's going to be fine. You drop Batman in the middle of the ocean, no planning, he's not going to make it, right? And so he's just talking about the nature of the character Aquaman and how his power set, really says something. I forgot where I was going.
I was like, where are you going with it? Okay, I see your point, I guess.
I'm just saying,
whatever the point is.
Aquaman can show up in Gotham City and it wouldn't be strange. But if Spider-Man and Spider-Man and the X-Men somehow cross paths, it's weird, even though they both live in New York.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So Aquaman lives in the ocean, Batman in Gotham City, but if they teamed up in Gotham, that's not weird.
Yeah.
But if Spider-Man runs across the X-Men, you're like, oh, this is different. This is strange. And you're like, but they both live in New York. What the heck, yo?
Yeah.
So just the unified nature of DC, it's not weird for them to interact in the same sort of settings.
DC really has it open where anybody will just team up with anybody.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. Like if you're in a world with a whole bunch of people and you're all on the same league, it just makes sense for you to team up from time to time with random people. And I think if you go with the Justice League Unlimited idea that everybody basically is joining the one league, which is why you don't really have as many teams in DC as you do in Marvel.
No, don't say that. There's tons of teams in DC.
There's teams. I just don't think that there's as many teams as in Marvel. And it's because they joined the Justice League.
Maybe.
Anyways, but
it depends on how you count Marvel teams. I
think the DC has better teams.
They do have better teams. Absolutely.
The two examples I give is Justice League and Teen Titans.
Yeah.
And then maybe the Green Lantern Corps.
You got Justice Society as the elder statesman.
There you go. And that was one cool thing that they did is for the characters that were more old school. They put them in the Justice Society, and they can play in that way.
Sorry, I heard a knocking, and I'm trying to figure out.
I do have neighbors.
Oh, no.
So it could be them, and they have kids. So
that's probably what it is. It's probably bedtime for them, not us.
Not us.
We're adults.
That's
and we
right.
Stay up.
That's right.
Until we don't want to stay up, and our bodies tell us it's time to rest.
Or until you need to go home and put your kids to bed.
My wife's handling that.
Anyways, Was there anything that on your list that you have
Yes.
that we haven't talked about yet?
Let's see. Well, you mentioned the team situation, and so specifically teenagers, right? The DC has better teenagers, teams, and individuals. So you have these excellent Robin series or Superboy series, and then you have the Teen Titans, right? Back in the 80s, you had Infinity Inc. They were the children of the Justice Society. Marvel doesn't have as many as that. I mean, they had the New Warriors and X-Force, and that was pretty much it. Now, they've done things more recently with like Young Avengers, and I think Champions had that vibe where they were trying to go for a teenage team or whatever, but it wasn't as successful as X-Force or New Warriors. Could be the writers. I don't know.
Well, I think the original writer wasn't great, but then they changed writers, and it's apparently gotten better.
But they still canceled it. Only because sales were down or something.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. But anyway, I just think back in the 90s, when I did the bulk of my collecting, Superboy had his own series, Robin had his own series, Impulse had his own series. None of them were in any of the team books until Young Justice. And when they teamed up, you're like, this is great. And when they teamed up outside of that, you took notice. And you were excited. And then, like I said, the Ray had a book, and that was great. That's one of the series I collected. And Marvel, they tried, but most of their stuff didn't last longer than about a year and a half, if that. For whatever reason. I mean, sales slumped. But, you know, there were interesting stories to be told about teen characters. And as a teenager myself, I was excited to read those, even though it didn't fit necessarily one-to-one correspondence in my life, because I'm not a superhero with awesome powers, but it was good reading.
Yeah.
Let's see. I like the varied mythology. I thought it was cool when we were discussing this topic. You pointed out, and I'll let you go, but just how Wonder Woman is distinct in her creation from Marvel's Thor or Hercules. So I'll let you.
You're going to have to remind me what I said.
Okay, so
I don't remember what I said.
DC is unique in the way that they handled their mythological characters. Instead of just saying, here's Thor, and here's all this mythology with it, they said, here's Wonder Woman, and we're going to put this character in. So instead of presenting you a complete ring, they put the diamond of Wonder Woman in the ring of like Greek and Roman mythology. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So instead of having like pulling a mythological character and saying, here you go, this is the new Marvel hero, in DC, they do, here's this character, here's this mythology.
All right, so they
add to the myth rather than just
taking the myth and making it their own. So like with Thor, you have the whole Norse mythology, and they kind of did this in Stargate issue 1, if you love that show like I do. They took the mythology that was out there, like the Egyptian mythology is what they started with, but then they ran out of Egyptian gods, and so they had to go elsewhere. And so they ended up with a Thor character, but they based those characters off of the original myths. Whereas DC, a lot of their mythology is either self-created, like you have the whole fourth world. But with Wonder Woman, they kept the Greek mythology, but she's like a new addition to it. They didn't just take Athena and make Athena their Wonder Woman.
Right.
They took took their own character and they implanted her, like you were saying, into the mythology, and so they could use the mythology, but they made it their own. They could edit it because they added things to it rather than just. And not that Marvel didn't add to it, but they took existing characters from mythology.
I mean, they made Thor a blonde guy instead of a redhead.
And I think there's a couple characters that DC has done that too. But,
absolutely. They have their own Hercules and
but the primary characters, like they did this with Hawkman and Hawkwoman.
Oh, they made them a part of the
They made them
mythology.
part of mythology. They took their own characters that they had made and put them into an existing mythology, which added more depth to the character. And I think that's pretty cool, the way they did that, rather than just taking an existing character and changing it a little bit to their own. They created their own unique character and then put it into that universe and had them interact with that universe. And so it helps them, I think, ground the character more. Whereas Thor, it's weird when he's on Earth. It doesn't really make a lot of sense because he's very much a Elseworld. I know that's another thing, but he's an alien. He's not a Earthling. And so for him to be on Earth is kind of strange. But with Wonder Woman, she's like a regular person, even though she's from another place.
Right.
But because they've kind of made her a mix of human and God, she can easily work on Earth and help Earth. I think Themyscira is on Earth, isn't it?
It is, and it's
so so they have that going for them, I think. They also didn't take Hercules,
but he's not as well received because they actually built off the myth that he raped Wonder Woman's mama.
Okay.
So he was trapped underground in a prison for a really long time by the Amazons.
Okay.
And then he was freed, and Wonder Woman beat him up or something. And he's since repented of his wayward dealings, and so he actually grew as a character. It's crazy. Sometimes that happens in comics. Characters grow, and
they created some others like Raven.
Yeah, Son of Vulcan
has her own mythology that they created.
Oh, right. So when I was originally broaching the topic, I was talking about within.
I know.
But no, you're right.
DC's created their own mythologies.
Yeah. You have the myth of the lanterns, right? With Volthun, right? That's the first lantern guy, and then Aquaman. They utilize the Avalon King Arthur, the Arthurian legends. Over here with Captain Marvel, Shazam, you've got both the Egyptian stuff as well as the Greek and Roman gods. Reference to the Judeo-Christian gods. Over here with Martian Manhunter, you have the Martian myths that build on some of what C.S. Lewis did in the Silent Planet stuff. I can't see everybody.
Supergirl, Cyborg,
Flash. Hold on, Flash. They had him race both Mercury and Hermes at one point. Because I'm just assuming this is Wally West.
I think so. It
doesn't matter ultimately because it's in shadow. But you have I can't reach, but Green Arrow. There we go. Green Arrow.
You can come closer to the camera.
Yeah, because I was like trying to actually reach. Green Arrow with the Robin Hood stuff. You have all these layers to these characters that you can explore the depths of with them because it's all public domain.
Yeah.
Thank God for public domain.
So.
I love being able to go online and read about these mythological characters. When I was in middle school, when we had to check out books from the library for school reading, I got myths and I read up on Hercules. I read up on Apollo and Icarus and Theseus and Perseus and all these guys. Now, I didn't read that until college.
So that's why we think people love DC Comics.
Oh, one last thing.
You got another one.
This is the last one, honestly. But they have like these major level bad guys that Marvel doesn't have as ready access to.
That's right. And that's the question for Marvel. Like, where are you going next? You're getting rid of your big characters. You've used your biggest villain, other than Galactus.
Right. So,
and
I
you haven't
mean-
even done a Fantastic Four yet, so it's just like, where's the MCU going? Are they gonna just have to reboot it because they've gotten all the characters out of the way, or you know what? But DC, they don't have that problem. They can start off with the worst one first with Darkseid, and they still have a ton of villains.
Right, because we could do Despero, we could do Brainiac, we could do Eclipso, Starro. Please give me a Starro movie. Like, how awesome would that be? I mean, I could. We're not, but I could sit here and come up with like 3 different movies that tie into Starro and lead to this big event where all the DC heroes are fighting like humans and other aliens who are Starro infected. And it incorporates so much of the various. It would be amazing.
Legion of Doom.
My mind would just explode at the thought of them saying, you know what, this sounds great. Let's do that. Because you could do the cosmic. So you started out in space and you have Legion, L.E.G.I.O.N. They're kind of like the space shield, if you will. And but better because they're even worse than the Guardians of the Galaxy in terms of their snarkiness, and they got Lobo. And if you could do a good Lobo like they did on the Justice League cartoon, or in the comic book, I felt like the Lobo that was in that comic book was great because he lost a bet with one of the main characters in the book, and so he had to serve on the team, and he hated every minute of it. And so
good.
It's so good. Have you been reading that?
Oh,
You're talking about the cartoon.
cartoon.
Yeah, the cartoon was amazing. I thought that was great too. But where Superman dies and he shows up, he's like, "I will replace him."
Superman. So good.
So, I mean, but that would be a great movie, wouldn't it? Superman's dead, and here comes Lobo, and you're like,
that's what they should have done for
Justice League. That would have been great. That would have been amazing. And who
and it takes the Justice League to stop them.
Yeah.
Anyway,
why did we let this guy join?
But that's our reasons for why we think people love DC.
And why we love DC.
And why we love DC. Obviously, we're biased toward DC. We do love Marvel. I love all the Marvel movies. The DCEU is kind of a mess, but they've got some good movies like Wonder Woman and Aquaman.
Shazam.
And Shazam, that's right. And so
you people are gonna kill me changing the names like that.
But yeah, that's what we think. Let us know why you like DC or why you like Marvel, why you don't like DC or don't like Marvel. If you haven't watched that other video, go watch that.
We talk at further length about Shazam in one of our earlier videos. Why his concept is the greatest ever.
That's
and
right.
Of course, we talk about the movie because we saw that and it was excellent. So
if you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. We'd love for you to join the family. We love talking about superheroes and comics and other sci-fi stuff. We talked a whole video about Star Trek.
Yep.
Love you. We appreciate you watching, and we'll catch you next time. Peace. Okay, well, we're not peacing out yet. Now
I'm still peacing out.